Today, we are exploring a bit around tech and society. Most of the techies that doesn't understand what the sector look like or what do you mean by social impact, because we all got all the information from say Instagram posts and everything, not so deep.
We are a country of 1.26 billion people, and it's not easy to distribute those resources efficiently. There's a lot of leakages in the process also.
That fear of technology, no? For instance, even me, I'm not going to touch a thing because I'm going to break it.
I heard about this platform called Up and Go, but it's like a Kudumbashree alternative where a bunch of women came together, they created a platform. Hi, good morning. So today we are exploring a bit around tech and society. I'm an engineer. I think some of us are, and then some of us are not. And then around TinkerHub, we are very new to recognizing ourselves as a impact organization rather than a tech community. And then what technologists or coders or builders can do, or how do they work with the social impact sector and everything. This is not like a very deep one, but it's bit like how do you understand this domain? How do you navigate this domain? What all things are there? We are from most of us are from Kerala. If you are only in Kerala, it's really hard to see a lot of injustice, but that is readily available outside of Kerala. But then, how do you be in your privileged position to be helpful for others? And it's very first time that we are doing something similar to this, and I'm really hoping this is like a very starting point of all this conversation. Probably we'll do different kind of or more deeper conversation on the go. So probably we could like do a quick round of introductions, like who we are and what we do, and who we are. I think probably we'll go very deep on the go, but what we do right now, what names and everything. So probably we'll start with Sumi.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Sumi. So I'm a journalist by training. I've been in the media and branding and entrepreneurship thing for a long time. And now I work with an NGO called ICAM Fellows. We are a tech NGO. What we do is we make technology accessible to grassroots NGOs and communities. They already are doing a lot of impactful, wonderful work on the ground, but how do we amplify that? And that's where technology steps in. I think like Meher said very rightly, I think a lot of people have very little idea about this intersection between technology and social impact, and that's something that we'll explore, and that's something that where ICAM Fellows is, deeply working in.
Okay, let's go to you.
Sure. My name is Ganesh Gopal. So I've been one of the initial team members or co-founders of TinkerHub, associated with the team since 2014. But apart from that, I'm one of the people who is not an engineer within the team. And I think that's one of the things that I stand out here. But I work with TinkerHub closely on policy, legal, and strategy issues. My day job is as lead of entrepreneurship development at an international organization called the International Cooperative Alliance at their Asia and Pacific office in New Delhi. So that's just a little bit about me. And I've been working in the social sector for nearly a decade or a decade and a half. And I've been fortunate enough to have my segue into my own entrepreneurial journey, social impact sector, and tried out a lot of these experiments, I would say, in technology and the social sector, like cooperative hackathons, COP pitches, all thanks to the young group of colleagues and peers that I've had here at TinkerHub. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm Pranav and I'm part of OASIS. We are trying to, I would say, bridge a gap between social sector and tech organizations. We're trying to address the technological and technology capacity gap in social sector by adopting FOSS. So we're building a collective now. It's been 2 months since I started joined, yeah. So I'm still learning and unlearning also a lot of things. Before this, I tried multiple sectors, like I was into farming sector, retail, and service and product also. It's been 14 years, yeah. That's me.
So I think so we were there in India Force, and then we had a lot of very deep tech discussion, and then only we realized most of the techies there doesn't understand what the sector look like, or
Yeah.
what do you mean by social impact, because like yeah, we all got all the information from say Instagram posts and everything, not so deep. So probably let's start with Sumi, or like any all of us can join in that way. But my experience or like understanding is very like primitive, I would say. So what do you mean by social impact organization? What they do? Who are they? Like everyone can pitch in it. But yeah.
I mean, I feel like you should take the lead on
No,
this.
no, I mean, please
Okay,
jump in.
I'll just start. But my see, like you said, my idea of what social impact is was largely came from my experience in college, where you volunteer for so many things. And but like again, then I'm growing up in Kerala, and what really are you looking at in terms of social impact? Maybe some bit in education, but then already our state is doing largely fairly well in in terms of education. Then the only thing impactful that we have done is probably in terms of environment and those cleanup drives and all of that stuff. When I moved to Kochi, I used to volunteer with MAD quite often, and later, like around 4-5 years back, I was one of the founding members of this organization called Tree for Life, which again is climate related or environment related, but I never got to know the deep impact or how much what real work needs to be done and is being done in this sector until I actually joined ICAM like a year or so back. Yes, you're reading about it, you are understanding, but the understanding is still very what can I say? It's like watching a movie. You read it in the newspaper, you see it at some level, but the understanding doesn't go in and or hit you that deep. It hit me that deep when I started working with IKEM, and I started meeting founders and people from other NGOs who come and talk about the actual work that they're doing on the ground, and then you realize, oh my God, this is so much, because that's when I really realized that millions of Indians would actually fall through gaps because our government infrastructure, our government just doesn't provide enough. It's not. I'm not going into what that inability is, but we are just not able to provide for so many of our countrymen at so many levels, whether it is food or shelter or education or opportunities or even just and why are we only thinking of just survival? Why can't they thrive? Why should this is something that bothers
Yeah.
me, that why should the lottery of birth decide who just about survives and who makes it big in life? Like everybody should have thriving should be a basic goal. It should not be about survival. So
At least providing the enabling environment for that.
correct.
And that should be the responsibility of the state and
Yes,
the
yes.
environment around
Yes.
each individual, so that they can probably reach their full potential.
Yeah.
But the point you said on the state and the government, so eventually I think all of economies like India have been structured as a welfare state, and the paternalistic nature of a welfare state, the state does provide, at least for basic provisions, things like education, basic amenities, roti, kapda, makan. So all of those things should be ideally provisioned. Unfortunately, we are a country of 1.26 billion people, and it's not easy to distribute those resources efficiently. There's a lot of leakages in the process also. So I think this is where the thought comes in, that the third pillar of the economy, and that is probably where the social sector and community organizations, CSOs, come in. And I think the book called Third Pillar by Raghuram Rajan, he explains that the first pillar is the government, indeed the government. Second is the private sector. And wherever both of these cannot reach, there is the space where community, NGOs, CSOs can probably pitch in. And eventually, I think that's probably where our conversation also starts, and our understanding might also be different, because all of us come from different subsectors and niches within the social sector. So our experiences and language might be different, but eventually I think we might be looking at solving the whole same set of problems that a large nation like India would face.
What I was thinking is that the importance of this third pillar, we are not really aware, especially in Kerala, what is its real need, what is the real magnitude of this need. I don't
Correct.
think we are really aware as a society, because as a society we sit in a lot of privilege.
Oh, yes.
I think. And as we grow as a society, as we become economically stronger and all of that, so many of us would have come from backgrounds where we still had some struggle and we still had some family struggle to go through. But I don't think the next generations are really going through that or seeing that kind of struggle. So basically, because they don't have their own struggle, they are not even thinking of, there could be others in worse situations, or that sort of thought is never even coming through. Because even if you look at what cinema used to portray over some time, because cinema was a way where people were exposed to these sort of things. That's changed so much from the 70s, where it was about society, where it is to buying very hyper individualism now. So the individual is very focused on themselves. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think somewhere along the line we have also forgotten that we are meant to be very dependent and not hyper independent. We should
Eventually
be
social beings and the sense of community.
Yes, that community, somewhere we have lost that sense of community, and the fact that everyone in the community deserves the same access to things that you get.
That's a very valid point. I think portrayal movies, they've become individualistic, and now we celebrate the movies that actually portray community. So if you look at Kombalangi Nights,
Yeah.
you have a family that comes together not by blood,
Yeah.
but by circumstance, but share the same love and veneration to each other that you would have in a traditional family or a close-knit family. And we celebrate that as an alternate cinema, not, I wouldn't say alternate cinema, but a movie that is, broken away from the hyper-individualistic nature of cinema that we have today. And Kerala, like you said, we come from a lot of invisible privilege.
Correct.
One is by virtue of just being born in a state called Kerala. So I quote Geeta Gopinath here, the chief economist of the IMF. She was here at a 2012 Emerging Kerala event, and she was quoting American sociologist, economist called John Rawls, saying that the theory of justice, if you were to be born in Kerala as a woman, you are likely to make it to the age of 10. You are likely to get a good education. You are not likely to get married before 18. And all of this comes from a big place of privilege by just being born in this geographical location of Kerala. And over and above this, you have the other aspect of which family you're born into.
Correct.
So that is the other side of invisible privilege, which we have no choice about. I mean, even the geography, you don't have a choice, but just because they happen to be in Kerala, the HDI indices are, very good. Education, healthcare, and the basics are taken care of. But on the other hand, I think how we got here is also very important. Kerala has had a history of strong community movements. And earlier, at least historically if we look, whether we look at the temple entry proclamation, we look at, the awareness to include lower castes within the socio-economic fabric and bring about equity, right from the times of the Maharajas, and the Maharajas probably fining the upper caste Hindus for perpetuating such discrimination. And all because of the Anglophilic British influence that Cochin, Travancore and Malabar have had over the years. And I think that is where community historically has played such a big part. We've been talking about socialist movements, the freedom movement, temple entry proclamation, and a lot of, I would say, religious harmony being perpetuated in Kerala, unlike, I would say, many states in India, unfortunately. And that is also got to do with the unique location of Kerala and all of that, where, there's been a confluence of religions, cultures, people coming together. But I think culturally we've been accepting as a community. And the movements,
we might be deviating
a lot from we went a lot into
how great is Kerala, probably we could do.
this is how we are editing this out.
So I think since we wish to end by 11:30, it's 30-40 minutes more.
Yeah.
So since we already probably could I didn't have much structures. So what are some things that we needed to convey or have? Definitely why OASIS is one thing, and probably that's one thing, and then I think probably all of us can add in different views. I could talk from the talent point of view. You could probably talk from
I can talk from the point of view what, like, Anand, what you asked me, right?
Ah,
What are the
what-
needs that actually
yeah,
NGOs have that we can resolve for?
and
And I
then
can also give a perspective of my perspective. Like, I had no clue about the tech NGOs.
Yeah.
yeah.
That I would like to add, because not many also outside know that there is something called tech NGO.
And then, what is the angle you wish to add?
Probably I can speak about the need for community movements and how technology can enable a lot of these community movements and the impact they normally create if there is an understanding of the grassroots problem for these enablers. And
I think that part is like Sumi Kamari.
Oh, okay.
But,
what would you like me to?
One thing is like, what is the, like, probably you can talk about the practicalities of OASIS, like
Yeah.
what kind of organizations are there and what are we trying to do. Probably you can talk about the possibility, like what if there is this like large number of like tech volunteers, or like there is this ecosystem that is ready to support or grow, like thrive all these NGOs. What kind of possibilities that can actually bring to a country like India? So that's something hooked me personally while we were having this first conversation with Kailash around this thing. And that was a time I was wondering, okay, T4GC was already working with maybe thousands of NGOs.
Yeah.
And maybe knowing at least one tool exists is a very big deal. For us, like, I think for personally me, there was no other way, because like all of my friends, I don't know what is happening in Chennai, but I never Googles, but that comes to me because everyone talking about it. But for me, then it's very much strange. Okay, like something we are taking for granted. Maybe in TinkerHub, maybe like thousands of students definitely know how to use a Notion.
Yeah.
But that's a very big deal for an organization. Is something like
Absolutely.
and like, okay, let's make a Google form and why not? But for a lot of people, even like next week we are going to host this program around Agami, like how do you leverage technology for justice. And then they were looking, okay, there are people who can't actually touch a Google form, even if it is written in Kannada, while you try to input, a English keyboard comes, and they don't know how to type it. I don't know, oh, come on. So probably I think
that is our tech privilege talking.
yeah, but I think that's something might be needed for the students or the tech community who wanted to start exploring a bit. I think they might need to read a lot, and maybe I don't know what's the right way to start with all these things to start understanding. But I think more from an OASIS point of view, or like since all of us are like part of that collective, let's focus a bit more on that side. And then there I wanted Sumi to tell us about, like, so you work with large number of organizations, grassroots organizations in the country. So who are they? What are their challenges? What is the kind of problems they are trying to solve? And in terms of technology or in terms of growth, where are they getting stuck? And then what are you trying to do about it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want
go
to add
ahead.
something.
No, I mean, what we can do is we can start from OASIS. Then I will she can take it over on the ground level. What's happening?
I think if it's the other way around.
Other way around.
Because
Yeah.
then there's the need
then you
for
can
what
connect
is the
it. Yes,
need for
correct.
And
why
then
we
I
need
could
more
tell-
organization.
Once you explain, then I could talk about how talent can be there,
Yeah.
and then he could talk
How it
about
connects to
how
the
all these connects,
Correct,
and then what is possible
Yeah.
if you all work together. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So what I feel like after having been here for like a year and seen how things work, so a large number of social impact organizations. So far we have worked with organizations across sectors. They could be working with women's health, farming, maybe farming livelihoods, prison inmates, education. So we've worked with NGOs across the board. Going forward, we're going to focus on climate action NGOs. But what we have seen across the board is that, like you say, like even like he's explained, a simple thing like a Google form, a Google sheet, simple data collection things, having a website. All of these are things that we just take for granted. We are not even thinking through. You tell me to go and do a survey today, I will obviously put it on a Google form and have a Google sheet, tabulate all of that. But these are people who are still either doing it orally and noting it down on a piece of a pen and paper. And we're not talking about, we're talking about, each person going to around 60, 70 talking to like that kind of communities all the time, and they have to tabulate this over time. Whatever work they're doing, they have to, put this across time. So even the most basic things are not available to these grassroots communities. And the fact is that they're so involved in their work that they do not realize that they can work faster or more efficiently, one, or that this is actually a need. They think that whenever they come to it or whenever they scale, they'll do it. Most often, I think NGOs realize that this is a need is when they need to fundraise.
Mostly an afterthought that
Yeah,
comes at
but
the
this
point of
usually comes at the
desperation
point
and
when they need to fundraise,
fundraise and scale.
and scale. So, and at that point, they realize that not having a website is a problem. So, the first thing that they usually come to us for is that we don't have a website and we would like to have a website. And but then what we do is we have like a conversation with them. We understand what they do, their processes, and then during that conversation, both of us kind of figure out so many other areas where these tools, FOSS tools that we use can help them, impact so much better, do streamline their processes so much better, even actually put all the knowledge that they have in a common place for their core team, for the public to access, and all of that. So most often I feel like NGOs come to us with the simple need that they need a website, which we think it's such a small thing, but it's actually a huge thing for them because they're doing such important work on the ground that is not being seen, not being heard, not being funded because they're not discoverable.
Just because of zero digital visibility.
Correct. They're just not discoverable to the public. They're not discoverable to the big institutional funders. They're not seen. But they are actually doing so much impactful work on the ground. They don't have a way to, they have a lot of data. How do they visualize this? They have a lot of knowledge. Where do they put it so that their new team members can learn quickly? Instead of somebody teaching them, they have access to this. How do they learn that? So all of these are problems, and they're problems of scale actually. And these are problems that can be easily solved for them, but they don't even know that these tools are available. So there's a huge, there's a
Lack
huge
of
gap.
awareness.
Gap there. So that's something that I've realized, during my work with IKIM. So that's probably where something
Yeah,
like
we will go to like OASIS because like I think we all are part of this conversation. Otherwise, like all of us are in different places.
Correct.
Like, IKIM brings OASIS brings
OASIS
everyone
brings-
together.
Yeah.
So then, what is OASIS? Why we are here?
OASIS is open source alliances for social innovation and sustainability. That is what is OASIS, OASIS. So as Sumi said, there is a demand in social sector, and the tech organizations don't know that there is a demand in social sector. The basic assumption is, it's social sector. There is no market there. That's what a tech organization would believe, or a small tech shop, or a technologist would believe. I'm talking about like whom I've spoken in my group or technologists. They're saying, what do we do in social sector? What is there? I mean, maybe they cannot afford, or they don't know much. There is a technology gap there and the capacity gap, I would say. OASIS is trying to bring that awareness on both the sides. For social sector, we are saying there is something called FOSS, which is like low code or no code, and which can reduce their technology cost by maybe like reduced by 70%, and they can actually do the impact on what they're supposed to do, where they can reduce the spends on technology and do the impact. For the organizations, we're trying to create an awareness that, see, there is a huge market here. There is a new stream of revenue also for the organizations to come and serve for the social sector. And the demand is huge because there are not many social sector organizations who are using a lot of technology, and they don't have awareness. As she said, what do they do with the data? Is there anything which they're getting out? Even if they know that there is some technology, they think it's very expensive, we cannot afford it, there is a lock-in period for it, the data is, I don't know, it can get misused. That is the basic assumption what these people have. But when the FOSS comes into the picture, there is no lock-in period for them. They can customize according to their needs, and also at the same time, the cost is reduced for them, and the data is with them, and the source code is also with them, which is different in when you go to a proprietary tool. So this is the bridge we are trying to create between social sector and tech organization. This is where OASIS come into the picture, and we want to put these stories also out so that people know that what's happening in social sector and how FOSS is helping out the social sector. Tech volunteer also can join. They can understand there is I mean, they can help out the social sector on their free time, or they can freelance there. It can be as simple as installing a basic app in an social sector. You can be a tech volunteer and join OASIS and help the social sector. So yeah, this is what OASIS is trying to do. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. And we already have like 5 alliances right now. That is IKEM, and we have TinkerHub, and we have FOSS United, T4GC, and we have Rebenefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably I'll add like why TinkerHub is part of it, because like one of the hardest sell we or hardest like longest conversation we ever had in TinkerHub is like why women in tech. It's really like core part of what we do, and I'm right now sensing it. OASIS might become first or second in that list, because like okay, like why are we here, or like especially from the community, what are we trying to do there? Because we are basically makers and like hackers. But I wanted to take this word like thrive, what Sumi was using, and I see like and Sumi was in the earlier conversation. Sumi was mentioning like some of the challenges we or different generations had might not be there for the new generation. But I think people who might be in the college right now might be the first generation in Kerala to actually think about mental health or a work-life balance. Other things we might have seen or heard in the maybe newsletters. For example, EY might used to send such things to their team, but means nothing. But today, these students are in a privileged position. For us, it might be privileged. For them, it's very basic.
Correct.
If I'm not peaceful, if I'm not in a mental state to do things, how do I do that? I think like for different generations, it might there will be some challenges, there will be some possibilities. So right now, I really personally feel is like some of the challenges that we might cause. Okay, we just out of college, we need to get a job so that the family can survive, or like at least we can survive. But I think a lot of students today might their parents might be still working, so they can take 2-3 years to figure out. And I think if you want to create more meaningful, deeper career and everything, you need enough time to explore. For me, I think for the students who have that kind of privilege, who don't necessarily get a good paying job today, I wanted to explore new areas. So all these areas are really new. Like intersection of tech and society, there's a lot more discussion needed to be done. Or the possibilities are very endless. Because like my partner is doing her PhD. She is doing in like literature censorship and all. And then we were wondering about like who is going to like government censors content. Books, different kind of thing. Then if LLMs are creating content, then who is going to censor that? So probably there's a new kind of possibilities coming, but you need this intersectional knowledge or thought process, everything. I personally really believe like some point of time, like I really feel like I had the privilege to think about what is meaningful for me while I was really young, maybe 25-26 years old. Then I was in a privileged position to quit my full-time job, join TinkerHub full-time, and then wait for next 2 years to figure out. And then there are enough people to support. That is a very big deal. Yeah. But I really think if there are more people are having that kind of a possibility, probably they will go and figure out new things. And one of these things, like end of the day, we all wanted to feel nice, that just to realize that we are also good humans. We are also trying our best to help other people. And I think somebody like especially after all this conversation with OASIS, I realized technology people, like people who traditionally have seen as like geeks, or like who are not like maybe not very social, like a traditional geek is an introvert, but how much of the contribution they can actually do with the skills that they are having today. But while the conversation with the OASIS, I realized is like it might not be possible. Even the technology was there maybe 50 years ago, but these kind of possibilities might not be there maybe 10 or 15, even 5 years before. Or this surge of all these SaaS tools, and then cloud solutions, and then low cost, no code tools and everything that really happen these days. So so personally, I think like a lot more students are actually looking for do something more meaningful. And there is no much avenues. That's something bothering me. So from a like a very biased point of view of a like organization who really cares about students, I deeply care about what is the kind of opportunities or what is the kind of experience these kids are going to get. So for there, I want them to do more meaningful things. They want to feel good and they want to leverage their skills. So then it will be an opportunity for them to realize, okay, if I learn more, if I do more, my skills are something actually. End of the day, all these stories companies used to tell, oh, you are going to change the world, but this is actual way to
Yeah.
actually change the world, and nobody knows about it. And probably this might be one of such things. So right now, all the organization in the OASIS collective, at least one intern from TinkerHub already joined.
Yeah.
Might have started with ICAM. ICAM actually hired full-time people from us, and then interns, and one of the greatest validation we got about the nature or the community sense of our students is like Shamir actually decided to move to Cochin. Even though he was Malu, he never actually lived here. So, and he had everything in Bangalore. He was worked with one of maybe world's best impact organizations, and then seeing a space and deciding to move to Kochi, that was one of the biggest validation. And right now it's beyond tech. He was talking to other, like they were like ICAM is talking to other colleges and then seeing like all these content writers, different kind of designers. So all like Mallu kids. So I have that Mallu thing as well, mostly because we work in Kerala only. So it's not very hard to find people who are looking for meaningful contribution. So I think this is. I don't know how exactly we are going to is like becoming a tech fellow is the right thing, or a designer, that kind of nitty-gritty, or like do we really want them to join full time in an impact organization is something. But a trend is like at least few. Abhiram is there. He was like our learning fellow. So he went to T4GC.
Yeah.
Did a like internship there. Everyone loved him. And then right now, so he could be someone who can easily get into a Google someday. But he's actually very conscious guy. Like you need to see his like notion and all. Like it was really impressive. Like so he have all the questions, like existential questions, like 365 of them, just to randomly ask himself every day.
Wow.
Something beyond that.
Interesting.
Even today, I was not able to do. But that's a very big deal, no? He can be that kind of a conscious person, and then he's decided, no, I don't want to go to a startup. This is not something I wanted. I want to do something meaningful with my skills. So that's it might start with one Abhiram, but my hopes are really, really high because like I wanted, like I am getting this high or like this like positive energy with everyone. Okay, we are collectively doing something great,
Right.
and then what if we can get more students to experience that thing? So that's our like why TinkerHub is part of OASIS. Like our kids wants to, like all of them wanted to do something meaningful, but how do you do that? They don't know, and we also don't know which are the organizations ways that they can contribute. Like these are some of the avenues, but beyond all this, like these are like very practical things that we actually told. How do you see like what if we can create an ecosystem of all these like impact sector organization technologists coming together and leveraging technology? Like how like since you are also already working with different countries and in country level programs, how do you see the possibility? What are things you are feeling right now?
I think resonating with what both you and Sumi said earlier, the enabling environment is, I think, what needs to be created through such structures like OASIS. If you have 1,000 smart young people who know tech, but unfortunately don't know what to do in tech, and we're seeing an increasingly conscious generation now, whether it be millennials or the generation before that, they're all starting to, at some point in their lives, most of us or most of them are starting to question, like you said, 365 days, waking up, what is the purpose of what I do? So I think essentially, if we give them that outlet to fulfill that purpose, which might be using their unique set of skills. In this case, if you're talking about 1 million engineers in this country or 1,000 engineers or engineering students that TinkerHub works with, perceptive, intuitive, and socially conscious, I think the structures like OASIS, if that is able to curate problem statements, bridge the gap between their traditional education and background, which is mostly tech or curriculum based or engineering based, to understand what social problems are. So the problem, like Sumi mentioned earlier, whether it be a website or a tech enablement of simple Google Sheets or survey forms, technology is often viewed as a enigma or a black hole by most social sector organizations, unfortunately.
Is that so?
I think so. So I initially, when he was speaking, I wanted to mention this, that fear of technology. No, for instance, even me, I come.
Like you keep saying, Beegarandrisham. There's some
It's like
fear out
so
there.
the first when I joined ICAM, I was like, I'm not going to touch a thing because I'm going to break it.
Yeah, that's what.
So every time these people would create something and I would like click and they'll be like, why did you click on that? That's why it's not working. I said, but I am the user. I click. I don't know.
Stop
I didn't
shaming
know.
me for it.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Like, but then they're like, but that's good. So their thing is that, oh, this is interesting because now they're not thinking that, the average, I call myself like an idiot user, but like the layman, let's put it politely, will do this. They will see that button and they'll click on it. But that was not the process. There was something else before that to be done. And then that button had to be clicked. It's not that what I'm thinking about. So, so everybody comes to this with this. So now, suddenly if you throw an ERP next to me, I am not, even though I've managed operations, I've managed accounts for so many years. When I came here and they said ERP next, I was like, I don't think I can do this. And now I can train somebody in that. So imagine.
Within the last 1.5 years,
Yes.
now you're enabled enough to
Yes.
enable other people to onboard onto the
And
system.
see, that's the thing. So if I, like a person who's like, I call myself a tech noob, if I can do this, anybody can do this. But the thing is, we're also scared of it. No, we're just, even though I think I'm very much open to learning, I'm still scared of technology. I'm like, this is only for somebody with deep math knowledge and tech knowledge. And
That's right. I don't know if it's because it's jargonized or again if it comes from privilege, but the vernacular I think plays a big role in this. You were mentioning about forms in Kannada. If we are able to impart this to a good extent to the community in the vernacular, sit with them, even voice enabled to an extent. If we are talking about a state that is unlike Kerala, where the literacy is much low,
Yeah.
we might need to voice enable the entire thing into much more simplified, couple of clicks here and there, and somebody is able to use an application. Again, we are all biased with this perspective of Kerala because most people, we claim to be 100% digitally literate, and I think 90s late 97% proper literacy also. But if we look at other states, there is that issue of not knowing how to read also. So we'll have to address from there. Recently, CDIR non-profit had looked at tech for climate resilience roundtables, a couple of them that we had organized. So here we were trying to, again with two of our partner organizations and friends, one working in responsible tech and media and the other with environment. So what we realized is, so the idea was to build technology tools first by understanding what is the problem at the grassroots for climate resilience. So this can be floods, this can be predicting disasters or landslides, this can be climate changes or weather in terms of agriculture. But the issue is ultimately on the grassroots, this needs to find adoption. People sitting in glass houses like us, assuming what the problem is on the grassroots,
correct.
and designing these things is not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
Right from the design process of a solution, right from the brainstorming process, the community needs to be involved. So I think we try to do that by bringing in the community right from the first discussion onwards. And then we looked at practitioners and experts. But still the problem of vernacular comes. Adoption takes a lot more effort. This has to be owned by the community, which is where I'm coming in a little more with the cooperative bias. Because ownership has to be collective and it has to be theirs, not a top-down approach. For any of these things to survive or be resilient and be used in time. I think another reason for social transformation and social change in Kerala is because, like I earlier mentioned, social movements were there, and that was all grassroots, bottom up, and people were involved in the process of change and a collective awareness. Likewise, I think the development sector needs to kind of see, hey, or be part of the solution making process.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
tech-enabled guys are super smart and they are conscious. They want to do something, but there's no point in creating 110 apps,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is replicating the same problem. Which probably they don't even realize there might be a better wheel out there, and there might be a better business process or a operational process they're doing on the ground. That can be even
Yeah.
increasingly tech-enabled, which they might not be aware of. I think that conversation and curating that conversation is where responsibility, like
Yes.
collectives like OASIS, TinkerHub, cooperatives, all of this come in. So you can still try to make elephants dance, is what I'm trying to say. Traditional structures, organizations, NGOs, or grassroots groups, if they can be part of the solution process, they can own the solutions, co-build, co-create the technology solutions. They don't need to code eventually. Today we live in a world of no
Yeah.
code.
No code, yeah.
Or we live in a world of socially conscious people who can help us code. But how do we inject these smart, young, or smart, vibrant people into that stage right in the beginning? So that takes a lot of effort also, because you need to have a trust and working relationship with the community. They need to also feel, and both these parties need to feel that, hey, we are working towards a common goal. There is there is a common vision, even if there is not complete agreement in everything. At least this is a common idea or an end point to which we are working for. So let's try it out. And I think it's mostly trial and error.
Yes,
A
yes,
lot of
absolutely.
these things
Yeah,
might
yeah.
just hit and miss, or work out, get adopted. Eventually, our key would be adoption.
Yes.
Not the another thing about Indian laws that I keep saying in discussion. We have really great laws, a lot of redundant laws also, which is being removed from our legal system. But great laws in terms of legalese written on paper. But how much enforcement is happening in this country? Likewise, we can make a great tech product. People have to adopt it. People have to recognize it, and it should be user friendly enough, either be in the vernacular language or voice enabled or inclusive in terms of, let's say, somebody who's blind or somebody who's got a disability. Are you making this technology inclusive enough to these people also? So we need to start thinking about these things right in the early stages of the design process. And I feel that is where organizations like OSS, like TinkerHub, or smaller communities can not just work in one foray alone. They have the responsibility and the opportunity to bridge this gap. So I think we need to speak both languages. And for that, reading, conversation, and probably going to the field is very important. The exposure of taking these young, vibrant
Yes.
people to the field and understanding, hey, this is what the problem is. We are not, sitting in a glass house or a, ivory tower and trying to solve your problems. Again, that also comes from privilege. Privilege does not always need to be money, power, or an urban setting. It can also be technology privilege.
Yeah. I wanted to touch upon two things, like ask you, like both of you, one thing, like before we end up. So one thing is like, if you can give us some like actual examples of like the work you done. So all this for somebody hearing for the first time, still it might be really hard to
True.
understand like which are these organizations, what is the, if you can like tell us one or two case studies, like this organization was there and this was their problem, this is how we solved, and then
Okay.
we'll get more deeper understanding for us. Yeah.
All right. So one icon that easily comes to mind, because now we are actually probably going to work with them further, is Zenith. So Zenith.
What they do? Zenith.
Zenith. Yeah. Okay. I forgot their full name, but they are into legal aid. So they help needy people or underprivileged people with legal aid services.
It's a pro bono non-profit
Non-profit
service kind of thing?
organization.
Okay.
So ICAM only works with non-profits. So I think these are very young people who started out, and I believe they work in Rajasthan and certain districts of Rajasthan. So that's where their focus area is. So they hold legal aid clinics. They actually see people through their problems. They take, they have lawyers who fight for them and all of that. So they approached us with a very simple need for a website, because what they realized is that so they're again focused so much. They're young people, so they understand that there's a need for storytelling, that they need their story to be out there for the funder to see it. So they're very good with that one-on-one, because their work that they're doing, they have a lot of case studies to show, and this is how they've done transformation. But when it comes to like when they have to reach out to somebody who's not seen the impact on the ground, it is very difficult. So they send one case study document or something that they put together, but then then immediately what that person does is look them up online. And while they may attract a lot of talent through that because they're present on, say, social media, so young people will come and work with them, but a funder who might be a corporate structure, some kind of CSR funding, or
they are very much active in social media. But
but there is no website. Very much active means because
But
when
they are
because they're young people, no, so they know how those tools, they know it better. They don't have to learn those tools, so they're there. They get their people. That's not a problem for them. But they don't have a website, so they can't present this in a structured manner in which a funder is typically used to seeing it, or a corporate is typically used to seeing it, because they want to see certain things. They want to see what your programs are. They want to see what your core team is. They want to see what your vision is. What are you planning to do? Your objectives. They want to see it in a certain way, and we're all used to it. We'll also probably go and look at a website. There is also that, the authenticity that comes with the trust factor that comes with seeing something out there. So that's how they approached us. And at that time, I think this was like last year or early last year, I think. So at that point, they just wanted to put all the information out there. And at that point, we decided to go with a static website, and I think that was created on GitHub pages, and that was done, and project was handed over because that's all they wanted. They just wanted all the information out there, and it was pretty nicely done. They had also put some thought into it. They had got a designer on board to design what it would look like. So all of that was there. So now recently I'd gotten back in touch with them to understand the impact of, how this website has helped them. And they were very happy because now it's much more easier for them to just, tell people that, hey, we are here and you just look us up here. Or that just having the website information out there has made a lot of difference for them in just opening doors for them. But now they want to tell their story regularly. They want to keep, now they've moved to the next level of visibility. Let's build the impact of this better. So now they but because it's like a static website and there's coding involved to change the pages and all that. So that's difficult. So they're in talks, how can we make this, a dynamic thing and all of that. So, and this is like the perfect time for them to get back to us, because we are also we are now, instead of just our fellows helping NGOs with the requirements that they have, we are also now training NGO staff to pick up these skills that they can. So probably a tool like Ghost, where they can easily, create their website, start blogging, start putting out content by themselves.
Mostly no code stuff.
No code. And if whatever very little code support is needed for any customization or any pages, we do have volunteers and we do have our own fellows who can help. So now they're considering moving on to a platform like that, where much of the work is done from there. And because see, when it comes to a website, when it comes to discoverability, visibility, tech is, Shamir often says, tech is just 1% of the thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
99% is the content. What is your story? What are you saying? So they are now they're very excited because now they're putting all those stories in place and they want to build this further, and they're thinking about moving into the next stage, which is a dynamic website. So that's one case study that comes to mind immediately when you ask this question.
I think that's also very important, the capacity building on training part.
Yes.
Because you give a fish to a man a day, you feed him for the day.
Yes.
You teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So eventually, if you have the NGO staff or the team members knowing no code, which is basically drag and drop and choosing a couple of things, and mostly it's all DIY.
Correct.
Then a lot of operations can be easily transformed without any dependency on others. This whole enigma or black hole of technology is ameliorated day by day. If you start sitting with them and introducing them to the magical world of no code to start with at least.
Yeah.
And force later at the point where they can look at customized tools.
I wish to hear a bit perspective of, OASIS, we are very fan of this collective called PCC, Platform Cooperative Collectives. Very big deal in the sense so all of us dream about a democracy or a world where equity is there, and it's not one corporation owns everything. So there is this Airbnb alternative called Airbnb that really cares about the community that all these like tourists are coming from. It's not like you are going and staying in a place. It's like you are welcome to a community that's owned by a community. So beyond using technology, they are leveraging technology as like a next step of building another, say, I don't know, like we inclusive economics, because like there are Uber alternatives which are owned by even we have Yatri
Yeah,
that
yeah.
probably we need to see like deeper, are they really cooperative or not. But there are like in different other countries there are these platforms like that. So I have seen this platform, like I heard about this platform called Up and Go, but it's like a Kudumbashree alternative where a bunch of women is came together, they created a platform. So they essentially go and clean homes. But the thing is like this, there's a tech platform that powers everything, and it's like a gig work kind of a thing. But anyone can be a part, like a member,
Okay.
and there is this democratic process of like decisions. Like it's not like somebody like some CEO deciding. You are collectively deciding, but tech is enabling them. Like what if only on a practical sense in cooperatives here, like you need to be from same locality and everything. But for a tech work or like that kind of a platform oriented work, you can be from everywhere. You can find your allies from everywhere. And tech is like enabling that is a very big way. And like he's part of that conversation. And then that's something we all wonder. Like okay, there is this like a democratic thing happening, and you can join. And like I think tech is like a huge leverage in that case.
Absolutely.
Like how does that work? How do platform cooperatives works?
Interesting that that you brought this up, and Meher and I have been fortunate to be part of these conversations since the last 4-5 years at least. So, platform cooperatives itself are something like a cooperative structure or a cooperatively owned body, which is owned by its members, but essentially having a digital presence, platform, e-commerce, or some component which uses a digital platform. So we talk about Ubers and Swiggies and platformization of most of services that we see around us today, and most of us are dependent in at least Indian urban settings for many of these applications. So eventually there is a private model or a private sector model that goes behind most of these huge platforms, or there are big tech companies. Here, platform cooperatives have an alternative which is owned, run, and managed by the workers or the employees themselves. So Meher just made the example of Up and Go, that was set up in the US, which was mostly for blue collar work, people doing domestic cleaning work, cleaning up houses, providing services like that inside domestic settings and so on. So that is something that has a huge potential in India. Likewise, one of the ubiquitous things that we use is Uber or Lyft or Ola. So there's this example called the drivers cooperative. So there has been a constant issue of cab drivers or cabbies in New York City, or overcharging, or that not being regulated, or unionization and such. So here we see a positive side to all of that, where the cabbies themselves have organized themselves into a cooperative, built a digital platform, and make sure there is fair wages, fair payment, and quality service provided by using the same set of cab drivers in New York. And in fact, just in July, we had the International Day of Cooperative. CDA had organized a webinar. Ken Lewis, the founder, was speaking about the community work that they do. So when all these cab drivers come together, they have a contingency, they have an emergency. Ultimately, the safety net is kind of assured, because as a member, you are having access to a lot of social security measures that you normally might not have. So the famous case in 2022, Uber versus Aslam in the US, had categorized or had made this landmark judgment saying that Uber drivers should not be just seen as partners or entrepreneurs. So rather, they should be seen as labor or workers who are part of your system. So this issue happens when big tech or big technology companies look at any form of gig work, whether it be Fiverr or whether it be gig jobs that we do online. There are several set of issues that come with gig work. One is the nuances of international law. The other is eventually you have the party or the client sitting in one country, the platform being registered in another country, and gig workers like us sitting in a third world country doing gig work for probably 1/5 or 1/10 the cost of what they would normally have to pay in their let's say global north country. So in this context, platform cooperatives are a great equalizer. And not only this, because of the 7 cooperative principles, eventually the concern for community, democratic economic participation, and all of this, these structures tend to be resilient.
Yeah.
Because in the times of a crisis, let's say economic crisis, natural disaster, whatever it is, in case it's a private enterprise, they might not be able to survive because they'll be going into losses or red. Here, because the members pitch in, they can probably, say that, hey, we don't mind deferred payment because the survival of the entity, which is a collective owned and working for us, is
It's
more
more
important. They can defer it, they can probably pitch in for more hours, and it becomes a collective effort. We've also seen, a lot of worker cooperatives being taken over in cases of sick units or sick industries. Likewise, there's huge potential for tertiary sector or services sector, IT workers cooperative. But unfortunately, the laws in our country are not very conducive. So one of the examples I can say is Nilenso in Bangalore. They've registered not under the Cooperative Act, but they pretty much work as a employee run or employee managed IT company. Like there's so much scope. If we're looking at Kerala as a knowledge economy, we have the biggest capital that we have is our, of course, the picturesque, apart from the picturesque natural beauty or the tourist destination, it is our human capital. And what do we export? We export human beings. We export Malayalis who are, normally having the privilege of good education or, access to a certain sense of good professional education or degrees or whatever. And once they go out, they tend to thrive also. So why can't we give the same opportunity in Kerala is one of the questions that we've discussed and worked closely with the government also. So then that's where we understand if you can mobilize people with either analogous or homogeneous skills or different skills, bring them together into the platform cooperative model, you can create multiple sets of entities or platform cooperatives where they can collectively bid for projects. Because now we are in a knowledge economy, knowledge interconnected world. We have internet access, we have right to internet in Kerala, decent connectivity in almost all the districts in Kerala. So now we've built the highway of connectivity at least. Now what do we ride on the highway? One is skilling and upskilling and giving them access to information. The other is how do we use this populace of human capital sitting right here, how can they contribute to the economy? How can they get better incomes and livelihoods just by using their information and knowledge, by being connected to a fair and equitable, just and decent workplace, which is the global gig ecosystem. So in that space, I think platform cooperatives have a lot to play. So this is one example. Up and Go is one example from the US. In Kerala, this is one example very specific to our knowledge economy. And then there are examples like taxi drivers cooperatives like what Ken runs in New York, and innumerable examples. You can look at safe food being traceable right from the farm to the fork or the plate by using food aggregation models. So here producers or primary cultivators or agriculturists, they can be part of the same platform and aggregation can happen. Another example was an experiment that was tried out. Terrace farming. All of us have probably a small kitchen garden or a terrace garden or something. In case a couple of these families who do have some kitchen gardens come together, they aggregate their produce. Individually, none of these people will get good value for their produce because there is no critical mass or minimum quantity that you can produce in one kitchen garden. But at the same time, without pesticides, I'm not tagging it organic or not or whatever, but at least it is from your kitchen garden. So it's safe enough. You have a state like Kerala that has high cancer incidence and other issues. If we are able to look at urban farming or aquaponics and get these people mobilized within the cooperative structure or cooperative principles, imagine that is real sector intervention. I'm trying to show both sides where you can have agriculture, food, the other place services like domestic work, or entirely virtual services like knowledge work being done. All of these places you can apply the cooperative principles and work with the platform cooperative model. The Platform Cooperative Consortium and the PCC movement globally is a movement that emerged out of the New School in New York. led mostly by Professor Trebor Scholz, a well-known, well-venerated figure in the cooperative and the tech plus cooperative movement worldwide. And now that's grown into a multi-country international movement by itself. And there is a PCC conference that happens every year. Mehar and I were speakers at the last PCC conference, which was held in India in Kovala. Next one is happening in Kenya. But the point I'm trying to say is, because there are structures like PCC, which is similar to a collective like OASIS, I'm trying to link it back to, the FOSS movement. So I've also had interesting conversations with Kailash whenever, few times that I have met him, that, we should look at how FOSS can work with the cooperative movement, because essentially the principles that we are trying to follow are mostly the same.
That's where I think all of these values, like democracy. So I learned a lot about democracy from FOSS, but I think like cooperatives are the exact place where that is actually implemented.
Correct.
And then probably some point of time, once we figure out everything for impact sector, with tech, probably this is an area where like, okay, there are like social enterprises that is actually thriving, and they can also leverage the kind of force that we are actually using. So I just want to touch upon that part. But this was like, I think, not even the tip of the iceberg. Because like all of us are having strong personal stories, biases, and then perspectives. But it's like a good start. And I don't like, our hope is like probably we'll go very deep into different things, and we'll get like the way we got like so many tinkerers, like people who love technology and community yesterday. There will be a day like there will be large number of like people who are tech aware and like society aware and wanted to do good things with tech, and then like maybe sleep or maybe do a night out thinking, okay, I'm doing something meaningful for the society and showing my skills.
Doing good engineering for good.
This was a great conversation, and like maybe this is the first time we all sit together and do this thing. But thank you everyone like for joining us, and then my hope is like we'll meet in other times for different topics, going really deep. But my hope is like some kids, some student maybe staying in her hostel, thinking out what else I can do, and or randomly sees this in YouTube and see, oh, these are few things probably I could check it out. Probably we'll fix our OASIS website before that.
Let's mention OASIS website also. It's www.oasishq.org.
I'll add all these things to ICAM, everything to the comments, and then probably they will
she
join
can
us.
feel it's not an enigma anymore.
Probably they will come to Cochin or to OASIS programs and then start contributing and do like maybe like do something more meaningful. So thank you everyone for joining, and it was like good one.
Thank you for the
for having
opportunity.
us.
Thank you.